Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thanks for being here. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how to get your account unstuck and start progressing again. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is because I am on my new free-to-play account for my Noob versus Pro video series with my editor son, and I have hit a wall. I have just stopped dead in my tracks, and there are things that we can do when this happens. But I wanted to address specifically what happens early on in an account, because you have different things that are available to you only in the early game, and you also have several things that you haven't unlocked yet. So the dilemma is different in the first few months of an account than it is once you get into mid-game or late game. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you may remember that I did a video on this exact topic about a month ago. I will put a link to that video up here. It is a very good resource, especially if you are in the mid or late game, for getting your account unstuck. And in that video, I outlined an 8-step process. I'll actually put that up here right now. Okay, so as you can see, I have an 8-step method for getting unstuck. And what I noticed when I was trying to implement this method currently on my new free-to-play account was that you really need to adjust this method. Now, I said that in my original video that this method is just sort of a basic guideline anyway. You don't have to do it in this exact order. There may be things you can add to it or things you can take away. But we're going to actually implement this method today on the new account, and I'm going to show you how it works in practice. I'm also going to show you some adjustments you can make for an early game account that may either not be on this method at all, or maybe ways to tweak what is actually going on in these 8 steps to cater the method specifically for a new account. So just quickly before we jump into the actual application, let's go ahead and review this 8-step method. Let me get myself out of the way here. The first thing I often do is I clean house. Now, in order to clean house, I'm talking about doing a gear, a vault, and a roster cleanse. We'll get more into each of these steps as we go through the video. The second thing is I start to stock up on all of the things, all of the resources that may have run down over the previous couple of months. Then I start taking a look at my roster. I want to optimize my roster. So that's step 3. And that's where a lot of work actually happens when you're in a mid or late game account. Step 4 is grind new gear. Now you're always grinding gear. So some of it is going to be based around the optimization that you've already done. What gear are you missing? You're going to know that based on step 3. And so then you're looking for specific pieces in step 4. Step 5 is to go ahead and re-gear. Again, if you've optimized your roster, you know what gear you need. Now you go out and grind it. Now you're going to actually apply that gear. Step 6 is push your max. So if you have areas that you need to progress in, you're going to go into those areas with your newly re-geared champions and see if you can increase that maximum level of dungeon or maximum difficulty of clan boss. Step 7 is skill up. So one of the things that you want to do is research questions. So if you have questions, research the answers to those questions. This is something that often doesn't happen when there's a lot of progress going on the roster. This is more something that happens when the game slows down a bit for you and you have an opportunity to actually watch some videos, maybe dive deep into your champion skills or your roster and like really learn new things about your champions, about the mechanics of the game, about the fights that you're taking on. And then step 8 is get prepared. And basically the idea behind that is there will be a moment somewhere along the line, usually during a shard event, where you will unlock progress again, and you want to be prepared for that. You want to have the resources available to take advantage of those burst progress moments. So progress generally happens either as a slow grind or in big bursty moments. Those big moments often happen when you get a new champion, or sometimes when you unlock a new level of a dungeon or a fight or something like that. Okay, so that's just a quick rundown of what's going on here. So now we're actually going to try to implement this on my account. So I'm going to show you my account. I'm going to just give you a basic rundown of what's going on here and why I think I am stuck. Now, first of all, if we look at my roster, you'll see I only have one 6-star champion. That is my starter champion. She's geared fairly well, but not amazingly. We still have plenty of 4-star gear on her. I have several level 50 champions. Obviously, Sun Wukong was a free login champion not too long ago, just a few days ago. And I do have my Deacon Armstrong and my Jamarsa up to level 50 as well. I also have a number of epics sitting here at level 40. And then I have some food champions, some other champions that I've been leveling up for faction crypts. And then I have a bunch of basically what are going to be chickens, level 20s at 2-star, level 30s at 3-star. So these can be food champions that will help me promote the champions that I choose to promote, whether that's from 5 stars to 6 stars or 4 stars to 5 stars, so on and so forth. If we look at my Arbiter missions, you'll notice here, my next champion mission is to get 4 rank 5 champions. Now, I could do that currently. I have the chickens that I need. I could make another rank 5 champion. However, you'll see in 2 missions, it says win 5 greater void potions from stage 7 or higher of the Void Keep. Today is Wednesday. The Void Keep doesn't open until Sunday. So I am being forced basically by the timer just to sit here and wait for the Void Keep to open. So I'm not necessarily in a rush to get my 4 rank 5 champions. I know that I can do it at any time. In 2 days' time, there will be a champion training event that opens up for the current fusion. Now, even though I'm not trying to complete the current fusion, that champion training event is going to be a source of more resources. So I'm going to save my promotions and all of my stuff here for this champion mission of getting 4 rank 5 champions for that champion training event. And then I will be able to utilize my progress, my champion progress, as a way to double dip into that champion training event and get more rewards. Now, there is also a 2x Void Shard event coming up this Friday. You can see I have 4 Void Shards. So another reason I'm sort of sitting on the champions that I have is I don't know what champions I'm going to get this weekend. So when I pull these Void Shards, if I have a champion out of those Void Shards that's high priority, that I might want to make my next 6 star or at least a 5 star, I want to make sure I still have those food champions available. I know that in my roster, I will eventually want to 6-star Deacon Armstrong, absolutely. I will probably also want to 6-star Sun Wukong. I don't know if I'll want to 6-star anybody else that I have. The top other choices here might be Jamarsa. She could be worthwhile as a 6-star. Sinesha is actually worthwhile as a 6-star, depending on your roster. And I think that, you know, some of these other champions are more questionable, but I do have an Armiger who I could run up. I do have a Saurus, who I think is one of the uncommons that could be worth a 6-star. I do also have a Shield Guard who could potentially be worth a 6-star, and I am starting to skill him up, you know, book him out with copies of himself. So I have some options here in terms of champions that I could build to 5-star or 6-star. But since nobody is just jumping off the board as my obvious next 6-star, I'm going to at least wait until this Void Shard event happens before making my decision. In Arena, if we look at my Arena, you can see I am entrenched here in Silver 3. I actually have gotten up to Silver 4, and I was in Silver 4 for several days, but I went on holiday and I regressed all the way back down to Silver 2, so I've had to work my way back. Now what's happening is this climb this time has gotten harder. So previously when I got to Silver 4, it was relatively fast, relatively easy. But now I'm noticing that the power levels of my enemies are starting to creep up. And we'll talk about why that happens and what you can do about it, because this is probably a place where a lot of people get stuck. So we're going to talk about Arena progress as well. If we take a look at dungeons, my dungeons are doing okay. I'm usually somewhere between stage like 9 and 13 on all of the dungeons. You can see here in Dragon, I've gotten up to stage 12. I could probably push this a little bit right now, but these are okay places to farm for the time being. I'm getting a minimum of 4-star drops and some 5-star drops, so I'm not getting 3-star gear anymore, which is really good. Obviously, at stage 13, you unlock 6-star gear, so I would love to get to stage 13 and be able to farm that relatively consistently, but right now I would probably have to manual that fight, and it would still be questionable about whether or not I would win every time. So while I do think I could open up this stage of the Dragon, I really need some extra power before I can start farming it. And so I'm not too worried about pushing it just yet. The Spider's Den is another dungeon that you worry about, and the big level here is stage 10. I've actually tried stage 10 and I have not been able to get it. But at stage 10, not only do you get better drop rates, but your star level of gear that you drop goes up to 4 to 5, so you stop getting those 3-star accessories as well. And of course, starting at stage 8, you can unlock banners. So I need some banners. I don't have any banners on any of my champions. I only have one champion at level 60. I also don't have very many amulets. So I need to keep farming here, at least for my Athel, because my starter champion doesn't have an amulet or a banner. So I'm going to need to do that. Finally, if we take a look at Demon Lord Clan Boss, I have unlocked a 1 key easy. You can see 5.51 million. You only need 1.14 million. So I am far past the 1 key easy. I have unlocked a 2 key on normal, but I'm not quite at the 1 key limit yet. I'm pulling down somewhere between 2.8 and 3 million on a single key. So it's a very easy 2 key, and I would like to move into the hard difficulty of Clan Boss. Okay, so while it seems like every problem that I have could be solved by getting more 6 stars, and that's true, you can see that there's actually a bit of a stall out here. One, because I don't have a clear next 6-star champion. I don't want to necessarily delay too long, so if I have to pull the trigger on Deacon Armstrong, I will, because I'm 100% sure that I will want him at 6 stars. But I'm going to wait at least for this weekend's Void Shard event to pull, and then we'll make a judgment about where to progress there. Additionally, I still have to wait to Sunday to get past this Arbiter mission, so I know that I'm stalled out for a couple of days. So what do I do in the meantime? How do I get prepared for that moment of burst progress that's going to be coming this weekend? I know that even if I don't pull anything from the Void Shards, I will be 6-starring a new champion this weekend, and I also know that I'm going to be able to move past that Arbiter mission. So what can I do in the meantime to get prepared? What can I do in the meantime to make measurable progress in the other areas that don't require me to get another 6-star champion? And so now we're going to go back to that 8-step method, and we're going to talk about how to implement this method on this account and why it might be different on a new account as opposed to a mid-game or late-game account. Okay, so the first thing on our list is to clean house. Step 1 is clean house. Do a gear cleanse, do a vault cleanse, and do a roster cleanse. I actually think that this is a very good practice to get into in the early game, so I am in fact going to do this step right now, and I'm going to take you through that relatively quickly. Because it's an early game account, it's not going to take very long to do this, but we do want to actually do this, and I'm going to talk about a couple of advantages to doing this in the early game. So the first thing we want to do is a gear cleanse. Now, a gear cleanse is going to get us a bunch of silver, which is going to be nice. That's going to allow us to potentially level up some better gear for our champions, and that is one way to increase incremental progress. But the other thing that's going to happen is that is going to affect our player power. Now, you can see I have 190k player power right now, and that is one of the reasons why my arena climb has gotten more difficult this time around. Going from silver 2 back up to silver 4, the power of my opponents has been higher. And so I'm getting fewer easy fights per page than I used to. Now, just to show you my team, you can see that my power level is at 47k. If I get out of the way here, I'm looking at 61k on an enemy. So most of my enemies are at 50 to 90k, somewhere in there, a lot of 60s, a lot of 70s. So they're all stronger than I am. And one of the reasons that is because when you are in Silver Arena, your player power counts towards how the game calculates your opponents in Arena. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a gear cleanse. Like I said, that's going to get me silver, but it's also going to allow me to drop my player power, because the player power is calculated based on a lot of different aspects. And if you want to know what it is, you can just go ahead in here and look at your player info, and it'll tell you, okay, player power is 190k. And this is where it comes from. Champion power is 128k. Artifact power is 51k. And then I have some other power from affinity bonuses, mastery power, and classic arena power. So I can really cut into this player power by doing a gear cleanse. I can probably get this artifact power down at least 10 or 20k. So we're going to do that now and see how much silver we get and see how much player power we take off. So when I do a gear cleanse on an early game account, the first thing I look for is I look for 1 and 2 star gear. And I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all of that. None of these are critically important pieces. I have enough pieces in all of these sets. So I'm going to do that with all the 1 and 2 star pieces. Additionally, I'm going to look at 3-star pieces, and I'm probably going to get rid of most of this gear. I may save a few specific pieces and specific sets like the Relentless set, or maybe the Toxic set, or some sets where I might get some value out of even a 3-star piece if it's like the only piece that could flesh out a 4-piece set, for instance. But most of this stuff I'm just going to go ahead and sell. Okay, so as you can see, I am selling 236 pieces of gear that are just 1, 2, and 3 stars. I have held on to special sets like the Divine Speed, Immortal, Cruel, but I've gotten rid of most of everything else. Toxic I've held on to, Relentless, a shield. These boots are speed boots in a shield set, so just in case, regeneration pieces, some life steal, And that's about it. 1 or 2 pieces in speed and offense, and everything else is going. You can see I'm going to get over 1,000,000 silver here just for doing that. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take a look at 4 and 5-star pieces. Now, if I'm going to get rid of 4 and 5-star pieces, they're probably going to be common pieces, not necessarily, you know, rares or epic pieces, because I'm still getting some value out of 4-star pieces. In addition, I may want to hold on to specific pieces in specific sets. For instance, I might have a 4-star speed boot in the speed set. So if I do, I'm going to want to hold on to that. Let's see if I do. I don't. So potentially I could get rid of all of these boots. But the idea is, you know, like if I had crit rate gloves in the crit rate set, I might want to hold on to those. So these 4-star crit rate percentage gloves in the crit rate set, that's a very good piece to hold on to. And then likewise, if, you know, you have a substat that makes sense with the set. So for instance, let's say I had some speed on this substat. If I have crit rate on a substat, if I have accuracy on a substat and an accuracy set, I might want to hold on to those. So now I can go through and start to get rid of some of this gear. So I'll do that next. Okay, so you can see there's another 1.7 silver there. We're almost up to 3 million total silver. Another 166 artifacts selected. Again, I have held on to some pieces in special sets. I have also held on to some pieces that are valuable in those particular sets. One thing to note is even a common piece can sometimes be valuable. So like this chest plate is an HP percentage chest plate. I like to hold on to HP percentage and defense percentage chest plates and gloves in certain sets because they can be valuable even if they are commons. Now, the last part of a gear cleanse generally is to come in here and do accessories, but because I'm so early game, I basically am keeping all of my accessories. I have no need to throw them out. They're all 3-star pretty much or higher. I have a 1-star banner, but it has speed on it and I don't have any banners. So I want to hold on to everything basically, so I don't have to do a gear cleanse here. So now that I've done a gear cleanse, I'm going to go ahead and do a vault cleanse next. So I'm actually going to do the vault cleanse and the roster cleanse kind of simultaneously, and I'll walk you through what that means. Okay, for a vault cleanse, the first thing I want to do is I want to look at my vault and say, do I have a bunch of trash sitting here? Are there things that I can use? Can I get rid of some of my vault space or clear up some of my vault space? And you'll notice that one of the things that I am doing is I am stockpiling champions for particular uncommons that I probably want to level up, either for faction crypts or for some other purpose. Like Armiger here is a very good uncommon, probably the best uncommon in the game, and I will want to have a 6-star Armiger at some point. You can see also here in my roster, I do have a 4-star Armiger leveling up. So one of the things I could do right now is I could book out this level 40 Armiger with these other champions, these other copies, and I'm considering that. He might actually be one of my first 6 stars. I usually don't do that with Armiger, but I don't have a bunch of great options right now, and he is a relatively cheap option to run up and get a lot of value out of. So I could build my Armiger. But for right now, I don't really want to build my Armiger yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move all of these copies into the reserve vault just to get them out of sight. In addition, I'm thinking about Zephyr Sniper. She's a very good faction crypt champion, and you can also use her in a couple of other places like Spider. So I'm thinking about running one of those up. I do not have a copy of her running yet. So I'm going to throw those into the reserve vault as well. Now I have all of these other champions. Some of them are just food champions. You can see all my level 20s are basically food champions. And then I do have a fusion champion here. I have some other champions I'm running up for faction crypts. But one of the things that I can start to do is I can start to sort of prioritize where my champions belong. So I think what I would like to do is take any champions who are leveled up, who do not have gear on them, but who are level 30, and get them into the reserve vault, because I can still use them in faction crypts from the reserve vault. But if they're in the reserve vault, they don't count towards my player power. So I want to start moving them over there. Now that means I'm going to have to open up this reserve vault a little bit, but I just made a whole ton of money from a gear cleanse. So I'm going to open up another 20 slots here. That's going to cost me about 200 silver. And I'm going to start moving champions into my reserve vault. So let's go ahead and just grab any champions that are leveled up, but are not wearing gear. All right, so that has cleared up a bunch of spots in my roster. You can see I now have 30 spots. That's going to allow me to get some food if I need it. And, you know, if I collect champions from Farming Campaign or whatever, they're going to be spots for those champions. In addition, My Master Vault is pretty clear right now. Let's actually move some more champions over to the Reserve Vault. I'm going to open up one more spot. And I'm going to move all of these level 20s over there. And this level 30 does not have gear. That guy does. Okay. So a Reserve Vault is a good place to put food with levels on them because that increases your player power, but it doesn't actually help you in any way. So let's just get them out of here, get them into the Reserve Vault. So if I also wanted to do a roster cleanse, the best way to do that would be to come in here to the tavern, go to upgrade rank, and start turning some of those food champions into chickens. So those level 20s, turn them into 3-star chickens. Those level 30s, turn them into 4-star chickens, and start promoting my champions. Remember, there's a champion training event coming up in just 2 days, so I'm not doing that right now. But that would be the roster cleanse. Additionally, if I wanted to take any of those copies of Armiger, let's say, and upgrade Armiger's skills with those copies, that would be another way to do a roster cleanse. So you're starting to winnow down your overall roster, not just sticking things into the vault, but literally clearing champions that you don't need completely off of your account by consuming them in some way, either as a chicken or as a book for a duplicate copy. In this particular case, I'm not going to do any of that because I'm going to wait for the champion training. Okay, so we have cleaned house. Now, step number 2 is stock up. Start looking for affinity potions, silver, mystery shards, and energy pots. Now, this is always a good thing, but I'm actually going to kind of cross this off of the list for a new account. Because you should be using most of your materials to get progress out of those materials. I'm not trying to stock up too much on anything except maybe energy pots. So I'm going to hold on to my energy pots, keep those in my inbox. But I'm going to be using up my mystery shards, my silver, and my affinity potions, and then I'm going to be farming them as I need. One thing that's going to be happening is I'm going to be pushing those potion keeps anyway as I progress, so I'm not maxed out on those. So I'm not really trying to stock up on a less efficient stage of those affinity dungeons, or those potion dungeons. So I'm not going to do step 2 here, really, but I am going to hold on to all of my energy pots in my inbox for as long as I can. So let's go to step 3 and talk about optimizing the roster. Okay. Now this is something that we need to do, but what we're going to actually find here is that step 3, step 4, and step 5 kind of all work simultaneously in a new account. So I'm going to look at optimizing my roster and see if I can get some additional power out of that. But one of the things that's going to happen when I try to optimize my roster is I'm going to identify the new gear that I need and whether or not I can get power out of re-gearing champions with gear I already have. So the first thing I want to check, and the first thing I always check, is masteries. Now I know that I bought masteries on my main champion, on Athel, so she is fully masteried out. But if I look at Deacon Armstrong, he's stuck at tier 2. Jamarsa is stuck at tier 2. Wukong is stuck at tier 2. And then other champions, good champions like Sinesha, don't even have masteries. So masteries are a place that I want to spend some time. Now, the problem with this is that masteries aren't super efficient to farm unless you are farming the Minotaur on stage 15. So you can see here I'm only at stage 11. It's possible that I could push up maybe into stage 12, stage 13. I could probably farm stage 13 if I can get past stage 12, right? Stage 12 is strong affinity against me because Athel is magic affinity, and she's the carry. She's the one who has to get this done. The other thing that's going to happen here is it's not super efficient because all of my champions are at max level, so I'm not getting the experience that I would be getting if I leveled up a champion and it had some XP to gain. So for instance, if I turn Deacon Armstrong into a 6-star, then I can actually get some experience on him here in the Minotaur's labyrinth as I farm scrolls. So I do have an opportunity for progress here. It's not super efficient, but it may be worthwhile anyway, because just getting tier 4 masteries on a lot of champions, especially your support champions, can be very powerful. So I may be able to just kind of work my way towards tier 4 of masteries and then wait until I unlock stage 15 to push tiers 5 and 6. In addition to masteries, I also want to look at ascensions. So you can see that I do have an ascension available for me on Athel, so I could get her up to 6-star ascension, and that would unlock the banner slot. I currently don't even have a banner, so I need to farm gear to make that worthwhile. But I could potentially go in and ascend her. I do have the potions available, so I know that that is there. So I haven't done that yet, but I probably will. There is an Arbiter mission down the line to ascend a champion to 6 stars, but by that point, hopefully I'll have another 6-star champion to be able to do that. I do have some other 5-star champions, and I could continue to ascend those. I could ascend Jamarsa. I could ascend Wukong. I definitely want to ascend Wukong to at least 3 stars worth of ascension, because that would unlock his passive, which revives him, and that's an incredibly powerful passive. So this is a place where I want to optimize. And so I just have to look and see, when is that particular potion open, that potion keep open? That is tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to have to get into the Spirit Keep and get some potions for Wukong to get to 3-star Ascendant. And finally, we get into the gear. We're going to actually look at the gear here. Now, what you can see is, like I said, my Athel is decently built here, but you can see she still has some 4-star pieces. Her lifesteal set is all 4-star except for the boots. So they are good pieces, and this is tricky because I don't want to replace these pieces and go backwards. Like, I could go up to 5 stars, but if I don't have a good 5-star replacement that gives me all of the things that these 4-star pieces give me, then I would actually be moving backwards. So I'm just going to take a quick look at my lifesteal pieces and see if I have any potential replacements for these pieces. So right now you can see the chest pieces that I have are pretty weak. They are low and they are not attack percentage, which is what I want on her. I could go with an HP percentage or defense percentage chest piece on my carry. That can be fine because extra survivability kind of works well with a lifesteal set anyway. So having a little extra survivability on your nuker is good. It would reduce her overall damage, but that trade-off might be worth it. As far as gloves are concerned, I don't have any upgrades in gloves, so the only potential upgrade I have is one 5-star helmet here, and you can see I would be giving away crit rate and speed for HP and crit damage, so that's not a good trade. So I have to stay here with these 4-star pieces. So if I'm thinking about farming gear, I am thinking about getting into the Dragon's Dungeon and trying to get some better lifesteal gear for my Athel. Now, the other 2 pieces here, you can see the resilience pieces are both pieces I've gotten out of the Forge. They are both legendary pieces. They have crit rate on them and crit damage. This piece has attack percentage and speed, so they are very good pieces for her. But I do have some leeway here with levels. I could level up this shield to 16. I could even level up this helmet to 16, and that would get me quite a bit more survivability. This would get me more HP on the helmet. I would get more defense on the shield, and I would get an additional substat roll here. I could also glyph out these pieces. All of these pieces could be glyphed out. So between the progress that I can make on my current pieces and the potential additional value of accessories, gearing here is a way to progress. Even without another 6-star champion, even without new pieces, I can still get progress here from my gear, and so I should consider that. Now, I want to do those during times where it's opportune. So one of the things that I'm looking at is events. You'll notice we have an artifact enhancement event going on right now, and it does have some additional resources available to me. This is for a fusion event. I don't care about the champion fragments, but I could get some gems. I could get some energy, another XP boost, maybe a superior arcane potion, depending on how far along this track I go. So right now, what I'm going to do is give myself a little bit of extra power on my Athel by going and leveling up some of her gear and then looking at my glyphs. So right now, I'm just going to take this shield up to 16, and hopefully we'll roll into crit damage here would be nice, or crit rate would be okay too. And we got the crit damage. That's excellent. So one of the things about my Athel, as you can see, she's at 100% crit rate. So crit damage is a better roll than crit rate at this point. Again, I may swap out this gear at some point, so I don't know what's going to happen eventually. But I'm going to also go ahead and level this up. Now I'm hoping here for either accuracy or HP percentage or defense percentage. Those would be good stats. All right, I got crit damage again, so also a good roll here, and that's great. So between the 2 pieces, I have picked up, it looks like about 7% extra crit damage. That's just going to make her hit harder. In addition, I've picked up a bunch of HP and defense, so that's going to make her more survivable. My campaign farming in 12-3 Brutal is not 100%. She does die probably about 10% of the time. So hopefully those 2 improvements will help me survive at 100% rate. And again, I'm looking for preferably a crit damage amulet as well. So if I could get that, that would really boost her crit damage a lot more. And then I'm pretty sure I would be 100% on 12-3 Brutal. I think I'm actually also going to take this ring up to level 12. Hopefully I'll roll into attack percentage. Not extra defense, not too bad. Flat attack there. And now I'm going to go ahead and see if I have some glyphs. I do have some 1-star glyphs that I can throw on these pieces. Get some extra attack. Even 1% attack percent is good. 1% attack percent. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with the boots. One of the things about glyphs that I often try to recommend to players is even the smallest glyphs matter in accumulation, right? As a group. So as I put all of these stats on these pieces, you might say, okay, you're only getting 1% attack, increase here. Yeah, but I'm doing that on 3, 4, 5 items. And so that accumulates, together, that means I've increased, say, 5% of my attack. Plus, I've got an additional 5% of HP. Plus, I've got maybe 5% defense. Maybe I've got an additional 5 speed. So all of those stats basically play. You don't want to think of them as just a single glyph. You want to think of them as an accumulation of stats in a whole. So the stats here have gone up considerably, not a huge amount, but I've picked up a little bit over 2k HP. I think I've picked up about, I want to say like 600 attack. I've picked up, looks like 2 speed, and then a little bit of defense. I've also picked up about, I think it's like 12 or 13% crit damage. So all of those are improving my Athel. She is my carry. So even small improvements can sometimes mean a big deal. Okay, so back to the 8-step method here. So again, I've kind of done all of these. I've optimized my roster a little bit, at least my Athel, who's my carry. She's the most important. I could do some more with my other champions. Grinding new gear, I know where I'm going here. I'm going into Spider, trying to get myself an amulet, and then potentially I'm going back into Dragon. Now, there happens to be a Dragon tournament going on today, so I'm probably going to prioritize that over Spider, and then any energy left over I'll put into Spider to try to get that amulet. And then in terms of regearing, I've regeared a little bit to get myself some extra power. The other champions, basically, I've already checked them out, and there isn't a whole lot I can do there. So by grinding that gear, I will open opportunities to optimize them a little bit more. So now we're up to step 6, push your max. And pushing your max is a bit of an issue early game because you always want to be pushing your max. So probably every day you're trying to push your max, which means that this isn't something that happens in bursts, right? It's not like you wait a week or 2 weeks or a month, get a new champion, and then unlock level 25 of Spider. That will happen later. Right now, I'm just trying to get from level 9 to level 10. And every day, if I improve my champions a little bit, I go out and I try it again. So pushing my max here is not necessarily something that's going to help my account progress right now. It's something I should always be doing anyway. I do think it's important to manual battles whenever necessary, and that's important, especially in the early game, because it helps you learn so much about the champions you have and what kind of builds have what kind of effects. It lets you know about the enemies that you're coming up against. So manualing battles is something that I'm doing anyway. Again, so I don't think step 6 is something I really need to worry about right now. Step 7 is skill up. Now we're talking about researching answers to all the questions you've been putting off. Now for me, because I'm an experienced player, I've been playing almost 2.5 years. I've leveled up dozens of accounts at this point. This step is a little bit different for me than it might be for you if you're a newer player or less experienced player. What I would say is this is a very good thing to be doing, and you do want to spend slow moments in the game researching the stuff that you need to know, because having a plan moving forward is very important. And so I'm going to show you how that would play out for me as a more experienced player on my account. So we already talked about the 2x void event that is coming up, and I know that that's an inflection point, a point where a decision needs to be made. So I have a plan. I will 6-star a champion this weekend. It will happen. The question is who? And I don't know that yet because I'm waiting to see those void shards. But I want to have a plan moving forward. So who am I going to 6-star? So what I would like to do is I would like to get a champion who can help me unlock areas of the game that I have not yet unlocked. So perhaps a really good clan boss champion would be excellent. That could be a tank, that could be, a support, a debuffer, it could be a buff extender, it could be another damage dealer. So it could be almost any kind of clan boss champion who is top tier. That would be a good priority to 6-star next. Another type of champion would be, say, an arena nuker. If I got my Gold 5 Arena Nuker solution right now. So if I pull a Skull Crown or a Genbo, those are 2 Arena Void Epics who would basically be perfect fits for my team and would get me as far as I needed to go in Arena and start unlocking that Great Hall. So that could be a next 6-star. Another champion who could potentially help me would be a legendary, let's say, that I know I can use in a lot of different places. So if I unlock a Void Legendary, that might be the next champion that I go with. I'm not expecting that. I'm only pulling 4 shards. Another champion I could consider is if I got a rare, there are a couple of Void rares that are really effective, like Cold Heart, maybe Bellower, maybe Reliquary Tender. Those are champions I could look at that might have more value than any of the champions in my roster currently do. If all else fails, I will be 6-starring my Deacon Armstrong. That's because I know Deacon deserves to be a 6-star. He's going to be a 6-star on my account at some point, and I don't want to waste a 6-star on a champion that I'm not going to use for a long time, and I know that he is going to be used for the duration of my account. There will never be a point where he becomes irrelevant. So if I were a newer player and I were looking at this roster, one of the things that I might be researching right now is, what are these champions good for? What are the champions that I have on my roster good for? So I know that Sinesha is really good for wave content, but maybe I want to look into her builds. I want to do it, watch a champion spotlight from a content creator and get an idea of how flexible is she? How versatile is she? Can I use her in a lot of places? Or are there only 1 or 2 places where I can use her? And if I can only use her in 1 or 2 places, how strong is she in those particular places? Is she worth a 6-star? Another thing to consider might be the affinity of your champions. I have a 6-star magic affinity. I might not want to make my next 6-star another magic affinity. So a champion like Executioner or Armina, even if they're maybe worth 6 stars in the long run, might not be my next 6-star. I might want to prioritize a Void for more flexibility. So I do have a few options with Voids, both here. I have Kurzad Deepheart, I have Doomscreech. I might be pulling some more this weekend as well. So do research on the champions you have, think about where they might be valuable, and think about your goals. What is your goal? What is your most important goal? Is your most important goal clan boss? Because if it is, maybe you have a champion that you could build for clan boss. But if it is, and you don't have a champion that you could build for clan boss, then you might want to change your priority just in terms of your next 6-star. Say there's more than one place I need to make progress in the game. So let's focus on dungeons right now, because if I can improve my dungeon team, that's going to get me better gear, which is going to improve my clan boss team that way. So in that case, let's get a dungeon champion who's really going to help me out. Maybe I want to go with Jamarsa, because the combination of Jamarsa and Athel would be really a strong duo and probably get me a few more levels of the dungeons, a few more stages of each dungeon. Or I could potentially go again with maybe somebody who has like a turn meter fill, like a Doomscreech, or someone who brings extra utility, like a Sun Wukong. Maybe even someone like a Balthish Droglord, who happens to bring a decrease attack on his A1. That can also be very helpful against dungeon bosses. So knowing what the debuffs are that you need and knowing what champions bring those debuffs can help you determine who to maybe 5-star or 6-star next. Okay, now back to the list here. We are at step 8, get prepared. Prep your food champions and stockpile shards for the next 2x shard event or fusion fragment event. And basically, I'm already doing this. I know that I have my food champs ready to go for my next 6-star. I am stockpiling void shards and ancient shards. So I'm stockpiling for the next 2x event. The void shards are coming up this weekend, and then 2 weeks from this weekend will be the ancient shard. So that'll be a moment of burst progress. As we mentioned at the top of the video, you can have sort of grindy progress or burst progress. I'm in the grindy progress stage right now, but 2x events are good opportunities to pull shards and get some burst progress. So I'm hoping for something this weekend, but if I don't, I still have a plan. So I am in fact already prepared. I can continue to prepare by leveling up more food champions in the meantime. One of the things that I may want to do is, if I can't push my maxes on my dungeons, if I can't get further in the dragon dungeon, if I can potentially complete the maximum level of dragon dungeon or wherever I want to farm, with 3 champions or 4 champions, I can use the food champions in other spots, and therefore I can triple dip on my dragon, right? Because I have the gear I'm trying to get, I have the dragon tournament that is going on, and then I can potentially even use it as a place to farm up food. So using the methods of free-to-play efficiency that we like to see on accounts of all levels, if I use that here, that is also a way to help me continue to grind all of these different areas of incremental progress while I'm waiting for the 2x shard event. One thing I definitely want to say here at the end is to warn players against trying to force progress. Be patient. Take a breath. You can see how many different places in the game there are for me to make some incremental progress. You might be tempted when you get stuck to go and look at your shard pool and be like, hey, I've got 13 ancient shards. Maybe I'll pull 5 of them and see what happens. There's an extra legendary event. Maybe I'll pull 1 shard and get 2 legendaries. That would be awesome. But the chance of you having that happen, first of all, is tiny, right? You're still at a 1/2 of 1% chance of pulling a legendary, which means you're not likely to get the extra legendary. And you're only 2.5 weeks out from a 2x ancient shard event, where that's going to improve your chances of not just getting a legendary, but getting valuable epics as well. So especially if you're on an early game account, it's really important to be patient, save your shards, and don't just think that every time you get stuck, every time you hit a little bit of a roadblock, the answer is pulling shards. It almost never is pulling shards. Most of the time, it's something else. You want to pull your shards during really good opportunities to pull shards for a free-to-play account or a low spender. That's almost always a 2x shard event, unless you are very close to Mercy. If you know you're near your Mercy counter or in your Mercy counter, and you had a few shards and you wanted to pull on this extra legendary event, that would be definitely worthwhile. So if you're in that situation, go ahead and pull. But everybody else should be holding their shards for a better moment. Okay, so that is it. I used my gear cleanse to get myself some silver, and then I spent that silver to improve my gear on my main. Hopefully that's going to increase my percentage chance of clearing stage 12-3 in brutal. So I'm farming up food without any loss of experience or silver there. Maybe I'll even be able to push like 1 level of the dungeons that I need, maybe get to level 10 in the spider dungeon with that extra power. We'll have to see. But I have a plan. I know what I'm doing over the next few days while I'm waiting for the 2x Void Shard event coming, and I'm going to be implementing that with all of my energy and all of my resources for the next 2 days. I hope you found this helpful. I hope this gave you some insight into what to do when you hit one of those walls. Don't despair. You will get past it. It'll take a little bit of time, but that time can be useful for you to do the things on your account that you need to do. One last thing I'm noticing here at the end is that my player power has not gone down despite the gear cleanse and despite moving champions into the reserve vault. So I don't know if that's changed. All the things that I was telling you I knew to be true, but it seems like my artifact power has actually increased because I rolled up a few pieces, even though I cleared out almost 300 pieces of gear. So if anybody has any information, has that been updated? Has it been changed? Do we know whether or not the method is still the same for calculating player power? I'm surprised the player power is still the same. It should have dropped based on everything that I've learned about the game over the past 2 years. So that's a little concerning. I don't want to give you wrong information, but I also don't want to be making judgments about my account based on inaccurate information either. So if anybody has any updated information about how player power is calculated with gear and the reserve vault, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you in advance for your help with that. I think the more information that we share, the better off we all are. All right, that is it for me. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for hanging out today. I've been Colred. I will see you in another video very soon.